everything is happening as was revealed. But those who teach Revelation do not know and do not understand it. Neither do they see or recognize the signs of the time or the messengers of God. Elijah has come back once. He will come for the second time when the last time is close at hand to prepare the last for God. He now comes to prepare the first for the Christ, and men refused to acknowledge him. They tortured him and put him to death. They will do the same to the Son of Man, because men do not want to acknowledge what is good for them. The three lower their heads and become pensive and sad while descending the mountain with Jesus by the same road they came up. That's the end of that vision for that time in August 1944. But it was something that I didn't realise when I started reading this, that Jesus would speak of the point about Elijah that I made earlier, that Elijah has already come. And in fact, Jesus adds something that we would not otherwise know from the Gospels. I'll just read it. Elijah has come back once. Okay, that's John the Baptist then, what I was talking about earlier. But he adds immediately, he will come for the second time when the last time is close at hand to prepare the last for God. So we're in the realm of the end times here. Elijah is going to come back then. Now we know that there are the two witnesses in the book of Revelation. It may be that there is a reference to Elijah having returned. As I've said on previous occasions, the dictations themselves are given not in chronological order always to Maria Valtorta. They're given for various reasons at different times. For example, the feast days of the church. She might get a vision relevant to that feast day. Or Jesus might avoid giving her a particularly difficult vision if she is not in the right psychological frame of mind, that is, she's upset by something, or it just seems too harsh given her physical ailments. But at the very end, he gets everything knit together by telling her where to put each vision, so that the whole work that we have now is a perfect chronological stream. So after the vision that I've just read, Jesus gives a vision on 3rd of December 1945, which is added on to this one. I won't go into what that is, but on that date, after that vision of December 1945, Jesus says, and here, PM, that's Father Migliorini, I believe, can now put the comment on the vision of August the 5th, 1944, beginning from the words, I am not choosing you for the only purpose of making you acquainted with the sadness and the sorrows of your master. Those who are able to stay with me sharing my grief will share my glory as well. And Jesus says then, and you, my faithful little John, have a rest because you well deserve it. May my peace bring joy to you. So now we have the commentary of Jesus on the vision of the Transfiguration that he gave on the 5th of August 1944. Jesus says, I'm not choosing you for the only purpose of making you acquainted with the sadness and sorrows of your master. Those who are able to stay with me, sharing my grief, must share my joy as well. When you are before your Jesus and he shows himself to you, I want you to have the same feelings of humility and repentance as my apostles had. You must never be proud. You would be punished by losing me. You must always bear in mind who I am and who you are. You must always remember your faults and my perfection, so that your heart may be cleansed by contrition. But at the same time, you must put so much trust in me. I said, "Be not afraid, stand up, let us go. Let us go among men, because I have come to be with them. Be holy, strong and faithful in remembrance of this hour." I say so also to you and to all my favourites among men, to those who have me in a special way. Be not afraid of me. I show myself to you to elevate you all, not to incinerate you. Stand up. May the joy of the gift give you energy. And do not let it blunt your minds with the savour of quietism, considering yourselves already saved, because I have shown heaven to you. Just pause Jesus' comments there. Quietism is a problem, a deviation from the faith, a heresy of some centuries ago, which was as if you did not need to do anything in the world. You just basically contemplate God or Christ. And it may be, one might say, I don't know sufficient about it. It may be an offshoot of the idea of you're saved by faith alone, the Protestant error. Because if you feel that way, then why do you need to do anything in the world? Let alone change yourself. But certainly, why would you need to do things out in the world if you are guaranteed salvation? Resuming Jesus' comments. Let us go together among men. I have invited you to superhuman deeds by means of superhuman visions and lessons, so that you may be of greater help to me. I make you partners in my work, but I have never had, and I never have, a minute's rest, because evil never rests, and good must be always active to make void the work of the enemy as much as possible. We shall rest when the time is accomplished. Now we must proceed untiringly. We must work continuously and sacrifice ourselves unremittingly for the harvest of God. May my continuous contact sanctify you. May my continuous teaching fortify you. And may my fond love for you make you faithful against all snares. Do not be like the old rabbis who taught the revelation but did not believe in it, to the extent of not being able to recognize the signs of the time and the messengers of God. Just pause again there. When Jesus speaks about the old rabbis, that's the rabbis of his day, they had the Old Testament. They could see the signs of the times and the messengers of God, but they turned away from it. They willfully blinded themselves because of wickedness. The sign of the times, for example, a key sign of the times is that in chapter 9 of the book of Daniel, we have a timeline given to Daniel by the angel Gabriel, by which it is possible to work out when the Messiah will appear on the earth. And that is the very time when Jesus, in fact, appeared on the earth. So the rabbis were alerted immediately to the possibility that this man may be the Messiah. And then they had John the Baptist, who expressly said that he was announcing the coming of the Messiah. When questioned, he spoke about the Messiah, and then he identified him directly when baptizing him in the Jordan River. So the rabbis had every means to know what the truth was and what they then should have started speaking and teaching to the people. Resuming then what Jesus has to say. Ensure that you recognize the precursors of the Christ in his second coming, because the powers of the Antichrist are on the march. and making an exception on the limit I have imposed on myself, because I know that you drink in certain truths, not with a supernatural spirit, but out of thirst for human curiosity, I solemnly tell you that what many people think is the victory over the Antichrist, the peace now close at hand, will be only a pause to give the enemy of the Christ time to acquire new strength, to dress his wounds, and gather his army for a fiercer struggle. I best pause again there, because one needs to remember where this monologue of Jesus is situated in. It's given on the 5th of August 1944. That's then almost exactly 2 months after the D-Day landings. And when those landings took place and the beachhead was established, it was clear that the writing was on the wall for the Axis powers. Italy was already under occupation by Nazi Germany, Mussolini having fallen already, and the Vatican was surrounded by German troops. So the entirety of Europe was hoping for, expecting a liberation, and was going to get it. And there was a natural exuberance. But Jesus is here cautioning that although that victory will come, that as he says, the peace now close at hand, it will only be temporary. And yes, we've had it in a way, particularly us in Europe, for decades. Never mind thinking about what's going on outside in the rest of the world, which has been often horrific. But we've had a certain peace ourselves. But we must not delude ourselves. There's going to be other conflicts, worse conflicts. There's no war to end all wars, to coin a phrase of Lloyd George's, if I'm right. There's going to be worse coming over the horizon. So resuming Jesus' comments. Since you are the voices of your Jesus, of the King of Kings, of the faithful and truthful King who judges and fights with justice and will defeat the beast and his servants and prophets, ensure that you know what is your good and follow it forever. Let no false appearance entice you. Let no persecution terrify you. Let your voices repeat my words. Just again, I need to pause, because you'll be wondering perhaps, who are these voices? Well, he's speaking to all of us as his voices. We are to speak for him in the world. But there are individuals who are voices in a special sense. Maria Valtorta is one of those who receive messages from him and visions from him and are to communicate those to the world. And we can say that insofar as we attach ourselves to those kinds of voices, those supernatural voices, we can be joining with Jesus in the work that he wants done, in spreading the messages he's been giving out since the last book of the New Testament was written. Because the Catholic faith is not just a faith of the book, as the Muslims say, people of the book. One might say the Protestants are people of the book, but the Muslims certainly can't say that of the Catholics. Public revelation ended with the death of the last apostle, as the church has always taught. But there are private revelations which can edify and illuminate the public revelation that has been once for all given to the saints. And so we can say, if we propagate the poem of the man God, the gospel is revealed to me, as it's also known. If we propagate, say, Sister Josefa Menendez, whom Jesus refers to as well, and her way of divine love. If we propagate the various apparitions of the Blessed Virgin, of La Salette, of Lourdes and Fatima, then we are partaking in the work that Jesus wants us to conduct, and we are voices for him, voices of his. We are voices speaking his voice. So, hope that's clear. I'll resume now. And if on the earth you should share the same destiny as the Christ, as his precursor and Elijah, a sanguinary destiny, or a destiny subjected to moral torture. Smile at the future safe destiny you will enjoy with the Christ, with his precursor and his prophet. We shall be equal in our work, in our grief, in our glory. Here, I am the master and the example. There, I shall be the reward and the king. To have me will be your blessedness. It will mean forgetting sorrow. It will be what no revelation is yet sufficient to make you understand. Because the joy of the future life is by far superior to the possibility of imagination of a human creature still joined to a human body.